This DM script that I'm going to show you has booked over 3,000 sales calls, generated 3.5 million in sales for ourselves, and it's generated over 60 million in client results. I'm going to show you the 10 really steps that you need to take and show you the exact scripting that you'll use to book more calls, make more sales, and ultimately just get more opportunities for you and your business. So the goal of this system isn't to send out a whole bunch of cold DMs. That's not what we're talking about here. We don't want to be blasting these pitches everywhere. We want to be having real conversations with people who are actually interested in what you have to do and what you have to say, rather than these bulk pitches, because that just never works. This system is really focused on not only creating inbound leads, because that is obviously a good goal, but also to get people to be interested. So we want to call it like the outbound to inbound. So we're kicking down the door, but then we're also creating people who are interested. The goal of this whole thing is to really create these self-led prospects, people who are interested in buying and who understand the value of it rather than hard selling all the time. The goal is also to attract and convert dream clients. That's one of the big things for me. This system you can do it like yourself. We have appointment setters, or you can have a VA to start some conversations, and you really eventually can kind of outsource a lot of the work here. So this is going to be super helpful for you. I'm going to head over to the computer and I'm showing you right now, and we're going to go in depth with this document. So the first thing that I really want you guys to understand, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger here, is I want you to have these words to live by. Is now that we're going through the system, is every notification is an opportunity for you. Anytime someone touches your brand, anytime someone interacts with you, you must see it as an opportunity to start a conversation and dig deeper with them. These people have shown interest, however small that interest may be, but we need to capitalize on that. So your new mantra is every notification is an opportunity. So anytime someone touches your brand, we want to make sure we're sending them a message. Now, I'm going to be covering the tool that we use. This is the tool that we've actually built. It's called Adtaria, adtaria.com. There'll be links below for it, and there'll be links in this document. If you want this document, then there'll be a link where you just enter your name and email, and you'll get instant access to it, right? There's no hoops that you have to jump through, and you'll get the full script. And I'm going to show you that here in a second. I'm going to walk through this tool in a little bit here too. So, firstly, how is this different, right? DMs are seen as slimy and short-sighted. And that's something that we kind of can't avoid, right? It just happens because people are firing off these random pitches. We don't want to be doing the random pitches. My goal is never to take someone from cold to sold like in an instant. Although that can happen and it has happened a lot, the goal is to turn them from cold into lukewarm or a little bit warm, right? Or less cold, right? You put a little sweater on them or something like that. The reason we want to do that is because cold to sold sometimes creates resistance in the sales process, but it also creates resistance as a client. We want to remove all of that resistance, so we are going to take people and warm them up slowly. Now, by slowly, I don't mean a year-long process, although I've had some examples of that. This can be a very quick process, but the goal is to create these people who are actually going to be interested. Because you've got to remember, in terms of the market, out of 100% of the market, there are only 3% who are ready to buy now and actively searching for solutions. The other 97% aren't ready to buy. So your cold pitch is likely going to fall on deaf ears because these people aren't ready to purchase from you yet. And that is why we want to make sure we're warming them up. And we do that through a process called content and connection. I'll cover the content just briefly. There's other videos on that. This is really going to be focused on the DM side of things. Now, the old way is chasing and begging. The new way, we don't beg, we attract. Leads come to us, right? So you can read through some of this stuff in the document as well. Now, the bulletproof framework for us, right? As I said, we've been doing this for a little over 8 years. That was an older screenshot, but it's over 3.5 million now. Actually, it might be 3.7, but closing in on 4. So we've been doing this for a long time. We know what we're doing. We know the DM process, how to handle objections, follow-ups, and all of that. And I'm going to cover that, right? So the funnel is content, DMs, longer form some content. And here are some of the content pieces as well. I'll touch on content here briefly. There are 2 posts that I really want you to start doing, and you can view this document and actually get these posts. The post number 1 is the direct offer post, right? It is super, super powerful. And I'll pull it up here. This is something that generates me 1 to 2 sales every time. This specific post I'm covering was actually like 4 years ago, and it's generated over six. Actually, it's probably like multiple six figures on its own on a single post. Now, it's not because, yeah, I'm fantastic and some great copywriter. You could probably see mistakes all over the place with this. It is because we were DMing people this, we were tagging them, we were having conversations that utilize this process as well. The next type of post here is the journey identification post. So, an example is here, and this is where you are calling out your specific target market and saying, like, hey, I know what you're struggling with. Here's how you can solve it. So, an example would be using in quotes the actual problem they're struggling with because it's actually a really good headline, and then talking about the solution. Another way to do it is identify where they're at in the journey. So if you're targeting people who are at 0 to 10K, you would do a post like this. And it showcases that you know and you've been through the problems that they've faced. So you're the person who can, solve those problems for them. It is such a powerful authority piece as well, and it works fantastic. I'm seeing a lot of people use it on Twitter. So that's quickly just a couple of things on the content side, the funnel side. Now, this is probably what you're here for, right? Like, let me check my spelling here. The DM script. We're going to get into it. And I always worry when I do these sort of videos about giving away my script because inevitably I get messaged with my own script from people who got it from somewhere else or people who have like purchased old courses or crap like that. Or they just forget that they bought from me in the first place and send it to me. So scripts work, right? But you need to understand the goal of each stage and the outcome that you are after. So instead of just following the script, firstly, I want you to understand the goal and then follow the framework where appropriate. The cool thing with this process is you won't get stuck because you'll really be able to see, and especially if you use the pipeline staging that we're going to talk about too, is you'll be able to see where the person's at in the process utilizing the script so you know the direction you need to take. The script is definitely scripted. We have words that you need to say, but you have multiple options to say the same thing. The first thing that I'll say before jumping in is that we really need you to be yourself. And so when it comes to some of the scripting, some of the language I didn't customize too much to make it broad. I use some of my own language, like I use the word legend or I use the word mate, and some of those things really make the script not sound so scripted, and it sounds so trivial and small, but it makes a huge difference. So make sure that you are using your own language when you are working through this script. So as I said, the first thing we want to do is kind of get out of that cold stage. Now, we're not trying to just cold DM them, like find them anywhere and like send a cold DM and pitch. We're trying to find some level of connection that we can establish. Now, sometimes that is like, let's say it's on LinkedIn, it's like adding a connection and sending them a message. Okay, that's fine. The goal really is to make that genuine connection and build a bit of trust. But ultimately, we would prefer if they were like, commenting on our stuff or we were commenting on theirs or engaging back and forth. The goal really is to establish that connection at the start, keep the conversation, and then transition into the warm stage. So we have 3 stages there: genuine connection, build trust, keep the conversation going, get them to open up and transition into the warm stage. Then we have the warm/situational awareness. Understand where they're at, uncovering and unpacking, and if we can help this person. I really want to make that clear, is that if we can help this person. Someone messaged me the other day. Actually, I get it like every second day. It's like, oh, I think that you should fix this, this, and this on your sales funnel. I was like, dude, it's like converting at 20%. Why would I do that? Is that when you actually say something that people don't want, or you suggest that they should do something, even though you don't know the full context, it doesn't work. Someone actually like did this breakdown on Hormozi's brand. Hormozi's brand, like Hormozi retweeted and said, well, that is a cool breakdown, but none of it is relevant because my goal is XYZ. And it's the truth. So you want to understand if you can actually help this person. And it might not be a case of if you can help them at all. It's a case of if you can help them soon. Because if you can't help them right now, or they might need a few months, cool, we can add them to the pipeline and we can follow up later. So the DM script relies heavily on you having your pipeline stages. So we're going to get into the scripting here in a second, right? Is having your pipeline stages set out so you know where they're at in the process. I can't stress this enough. Is your pipeline is so important to establish and to keep track of people. because the biggest thing in the way that I always shift into momentum is I do this process that I call, and look, excuse my Australian here, is who the fuck has my money? And if you don't know who the fuck has your money, how are you going to get said money? So this process really relies on you labeling and tagging and making sure people are in the right stages of the pipeline so that you know who the fuck has your money. And at any point in time, if you need more money, you can just reach out to this specific people. That's what makes this process so powerful, and that's why I'm such a big fan of it. So what I recommend is joining our software. It's called adtario.com. Super simple. It's designed for coaches, consultants, agency owners just like yourselves, is where you can actually have these pipelines. You can add them in. It's really simple. You can create a new pipeline, add your pipeline. And the cool thing is that you can actually track conversations, add tasks, add files and links to specific people. And we have a Chrome extension that I'll show you guys here in a second that you can go, pulls all that information, knows where they're at. We can add notes. We can add our follow-up right there. It works in the Messenger. It works in LinkedIn Messenger and LinkedIn, and it works on Facebook profiles as well. The Facebook Messenger thing is just an absolute mess. No one can crack that, but it does work occasionally on there, but it works on Facebook profiles. So really simple. It's only $19 a month. You get all this, and you get a one-on-one onboarding call as well. So the stages are really important, and creating these stages, we want to have the cold stages, the warm stages, the hot stages, which are the most important, and then the future/lost stages. A lot of salespeople I speak to don't have these stages, and the reason why is they're like, once it's lost, we want to forget it. For me, I disagree, is that I actually keep lost visible for me, because sometimes it could turn around, and we've had that. It's very rare, right? It's probably 2% of the, so out of 100, only 2 people would actually ever turn around from that loss column. But it's okay because I can keep checking in with them. I can sell them different offers, stuff like that. So really important to have some of those stages. Let's get into the scripting. So stage 1 is rapport, the pipeline stage, new lead to conversation engage. So new lead is essentially when you're entering a lead. What I would recommend doing is when you're on the specific platform and you find a lead, is you can actually set your default settings as new lead. Obviously this already has a deal. So we could go to, I don't even know who this guy is, right? Bonafide. Well, yeah, let's add this guy right here. So we want him actually in the pipeline structure so we can see it. Put him in new lead, update deal. We'll come over to here. We'll whack our little refresh, and we've got Doug right there. So really simple. What I should do is have a follow update. So when you actually want to follow up with them, you can create a contact right there, and you can add a new one, has his description, has his social URL. And if you actually find the same person on LinkedIn, you'll be able to pull their LinkedIn and it'll add to the deal too. So that is what we're trying to do here, is this stage is really about adding new leads to the, stage 1. All right, so what are we actually saying in this stage 1? What's the process look like? So what I said earlier is every notification is an opportunity. So the context is really important, is why are you reaching out to them? So if they're a new follower, appreciate you giving me a follow, curious what caught your eye. Don't love that one anymore. It doesn't work as well. So to be honest, what I would say is I'd be like, hey, appreciate you giving me a follow. How's everything going? Honestly, this is sounding ridiculous. I spoke to 30 people yesterday on a call, and everyone's like, oh, what do I say is the perfect opener? I'm like, the thing that we've been testing time and time again has been hey, appreciate you connecting in any way. And don't usually use the word connecting. It's such a lame word. It's how's it going? The reason we're doing this is we're just trying to start the conversation in any way, shape, or form. You're not lead genning them. You're not doing any of that stuff. You're just trying to start the conversation. And that is the important thing, is once you've got a reply, that's our opportunity. So we just want to get a reply from that first stage. And that's why I said we're just basically adding them as a new lead. And if you're doing a little bit colder, what we want to do is context, connect, and complement. So the context is why you're reaching out. Connect is the general connection and rapport. Compliment is what's something you admire about what they're doing. And so, hey, legend. So again, contextual to me, seen your face pop up a few times. That's the context. You're a savage about those newbies. Aha. General connect and rapport. Or that's compliment as well. General connection and rapport here is, how's your summer been so far, man? So you can see how that is a very general message, but it can work really well because you're just trying to get a reply. I want to reiterate this, and I've said this so many freaking times, is you get the same level of dopamine as you do from making a friend as you do making a sale. I have a lot of friends. Well, I don't have a lot of friends, but I don't need more friends. I need more sales though. That's what I want. So your focus should be making a sale. This here may feel like you're starting a friendship, but the next question, the recognized question or a market assumption question, is going to transform the conversation into a business conversation. And this is really, really important. I would rather you I would rather you do this and lose a lead than stay in chit chat mode, right? This must be custom to your offer, but the goal is to essentially make an assumption that you know the answer is likely going to be a negative answer. Because if it is a negative answer, it is leading us down the path that we want. It sounds a little bit like sales manipulation in a way, but it's like just uncovering. So what we do, and this is the simplest example, is I just skim through your pin post. Love the model you have right now. Is X the main platform for this, or are you getting leads elsewhere? That's, say, a lead generation offer. Looks like you've been super consistent in the gym, man. How long have you been at it? Are you enjoying the process? For a fitness offer. This is my favorite one for a dating offer. Oh man, I've always wanted to visit Toronto. You saw they're in Toronto. How is the nightlife and dating scene up there? I'm sure you're crushing it, right? And so it's a question designed to get them to speak negatively about their situation or about something that's going on in their business that you can solve. Here's one that we've been using a lot, actually, is gotcha. I've been doing this about 7 years now, so a bit of an OG. Saw your profile really set up as a funnel. I like it. Have you been signing clients consistently through IG or some other platform? The reason you want to do that is like that padding to the question just allows you to it's soften the blow. Because if you just say have you been signing consistently clients through Instagram and the answer is no, then that's going to be tough for them to admit. And so they might just have a little bit of ego. So you want to just soften the blow a little bit. But this now transitions the conversation, it's still casual, to a business conversation. Now, once we've gotten them there, at this stage, I would move them from the new lead to the conversation engaged stage in the pipeline. So you could do that in the DMs, or you could just drag them across in there. In the DM, it'll load that up there. So conversation engaged, you could just shift them. But I would recommend that you do it on platform. Honestly, the goal of Adtaria and is really for you to not spend all your time here. It's to spend actually doing the stuff. And then you can come back into your dashboard and you're like, all right, I know, here's what I have to follow up with. Here's my high priority deals. Here's some tasks that I need to accomplish, right? That really is the goal for us, not, spending all the time in here messing around with the CRM. So you want to move them over to that from, new lead to conversation engage, potentially moving them to warm lead here. You can add another stage. We used to is we'd have engaged lead and then in warm lead. It just depends. If your pipeline starts to get too big or too messy, then you might need to add that there. Now, reveal. This must be a really a process just to uncover a little bit about them, right? It's actually interesting because this question could be the same as these roadblocks. But realistically, the thing is we're creating a little bit of a gap here. Is we just want to understand, is this a focus? Is this a priority for them? As we said, do they even need our help? So it may seem like a repeat of the roadblock, which we're going to cover later, but the goal really is is this actually the best thing for them? So oh, gotcha. So X, the main platform, how the leads been over there, consistent or hit or miss? Just trying to understand. Now that we've got an answer here, this is where we want to transition them into that warm lead stage, right? And it's really simple. The warm lead stage is something that now you've got someone engaged. So at any point in time, let's just say I'm in your pipeline, these two, new lead and conversation engaged, should be full to the brim, right? You should have hundreds of people in these. The rest of these stages really should be cleared out as often as possible. Calls proposed should be empty pretty much at the end of every day because they're either call booked or moved to ghosting or moved back to warm lead. That should be cleared out. This should always have 10 people, first 10, because these are the people, as I said, who the fuck has your money. So it's important that you update those stages as you're going through the conversation. Now, this is where we're in the seeking stage, right? You are collecting data versus interrogating. So this helps you understand your prospect and shows you have a real interest in what they have to say. So we don't want to feel like an interrogation. And one thing that some people do is when they feel it's an interrogation, they do this on sales calls, is they say, "Oh, sorry for the interrogation questions." Don't do that because maybe the person didn't feel that way. It's just your insecurities thinking that they feel that way. So, really important here to not make it feel like interrogation. And what you want to do is you can see. So, these are the examples within the script. Now, the thing with the examples, like they are pretty cut and dry and hard to ask. That's actually funny because it's pulled from the sales script, like to make it easier for us. This is how you would ask it, right? So, understood for you right now, what's the biz look like? Are you hovering above that 10K mark or so and dot, dot, dot? Like that is a great question. You know, that's probably more of a goal question. Is I understand completely. Is dating something you're pursuing right now? Is it more a later thing? Or like, oh man, that's awesome. Like, what are you currently doing for clients? You want to make sure that it's real. So that's why I always struggle with scripts. And sometimes I don't just give the verbatim script, but this is the couple of questions that you want to ask. Now, for you guys, is that I think that a lot of people really struggle with this is that they are just listening to me rather than like actually assessing what information do they need. I find that, especially in the age of like AI, right, is that information is accessible very, very easily. What allows us to be human and what allows us like to have more skills is understanding. And so instead of just memorizing these questions, understand why you want what you want and what is the reason for that. Why do you need that information? So what do you offer? Understanding their offer. Is that mostly one-on-one or you have group? So understanding their time commitments. How are you currently getting most of your new clients? What platform are they using? What do they feel like they need? What is their struggle, right? So those are the things that we want to understand. And knowing what you want, it could be different for you, right? So I want you to really understand that. Now we're in the results stage. This ultimately is like they should be in warm lead at the moment. You've had a good couple of conversations. We want to progress them to book a call or to present your offer when you get the chance. We want to understand the person's goal. Now, this stage is interchangeable with the roadblock stage. You could go reality roadblock results. I personally go like it's actually difficult because I want roadblocks to follow results always, but sometimes that might mean like my reality is a little bit like understanding someone's context doesn't get too deep, but the results follow like the roadblocks following the results works really well because you've established something that they want and then you've taken it away. So that is why I try to like create that gap there. Sometimes it's easier to go roadblocks than results. Just depends on your preference. But so like here's an example of if the question was after. So if you could fix this, if you had X, how would you go? But really the simple one is understood. Curious, what are you looking to get to? Like, do you have a big goal you're trying to hit? Totally get it. What have you been trying to achieve with your fitness? Do you have a certain goal or milestone in mind? So now we're in that result stage, right? We're trying to get that information. Getting this information is critical. You need this because it's showcasing their motivation and like desire to actually want to achieve something. Now that we've got that goal, we want to transition into roadblocks, right? You understand where they want to go. Now you have to understand what's stopping them. And it's a powerful stage. So you can really uncover the issues that they're facing and create a plan to solve them. So some example questions like, oh, awesome, man. Like, what's your biggest focus for you right now to get to 10 grand a month? So what do you feel like you need in order to hit that? What do you think's holding you back? What are you currently trying to do in regards to growth? Are you using paid or organic, right? Just talking about their roadblocks, but kind of making it not feel as like deep as a sales process. Someone asked me this question is like, are you just using sales like scripts to use in DM scripts? No, because you can't go as deep and you don't have context. So like, listen to this. A really powerful question that I ask in a sales call is like, has that had an impact on you? Now, watch me ask it in the frame of actually being on a sales call. Yeah, I totally understand, man. I'm just curious, like, has that had an impact on you personally, though? Now, you see how like I and R and my facial expression, that's like a different person. But the reason that is because that is you've got to think of it like a therapist space, like a therapist environment, right? Is where it's comfortable. They feel open to open up to you. Has that had an impact on you as a deep question? You can't ask it without having that context of, hearing your voice and tone and stuff like that. Now, there's something that I do, which is optional here, is sometimes I will actually like send them a post that kind of addresses that a little bit. This happens when they're a little bit colder. Works really well. Utilizes the hot goal strategy. I can talk about that in another video that I really, really like here. So the next thing for you is repeat. So this is an optional stage. This is where you want to dive a little bit deeper. And I would only do that if, like I said before, is you kind of have that sales call frame with them, or you have a decent amount of rapport where you can actually expand the pain. The best example is here is like, say you kick your toe. Oh man, my toe really hurts. And someone says, oh, awesome. Like, well, not awesome. Oh, sorry to hear that, right? But if the person said, oh man, like how long has that been going on for? And you said 6 months, that's a problem. But look how they've now expanded the pain that you have. You know, you just stub your toe, but maybe you stubbed it 6 months ago and it still hurts. So that is what these line of questionings are trying to do, and get them to admit the actual impact that it's having on them. So this is really, really important. One of my favorite questions to ask. I prefer it on a sales call, but you can ask it here optionally. Now, stage 8 is resource. This is where we're moving them to call proposed. Your goal here is to book a meeting, overcoming any possible resistance, objections, anything like this. Our goal and how we frame the call is very, very important. People are afraid to jump on calls with like high pressure salespeople, and they don't want to leave with zero value. They've had previous bad experiences, fears, whatever it is. So how we invite them to book a call will either fuel those fears or put them to rest. So sometimes for a lot of you guys, you might book a triage call, right? Sometimes you might just go straight into a sales call. So a triage call, discovery call, just like 15 minutes. What I try to do right now is like, I just go straight to a sales call. We've done triage calls. We've done lots of them. However, at this point, like I find that it's much easier just to go straight to a sales call. I actually think a lot of you would benefit from just going straight to a sales call because like lead volume and DMs are a little bit more difficult than they used to be. So what I really do here is like, I would say, glad that resonated with you here, or like glad I could help. Or you could say, look, I could go back and forth with you on this forever. I have a 50-page doc of thoughts for you, but don't want to shove my ideas down your throat if you're not open to it. Are you open to some new ideas / help with this? I've seen your challenge 100 times. I have some thoughts. Now, this works really, really well. Now, I put here note lately I've not needed to do this as often because like I sell via like Google Docs or anything like that. But this really works. And the most important part of this is, are you open to new ideas / help with this? This is where you might lose a lot of people because they might start to have some sales resistance here. But if you frame it in a way like it's new ideas or help, like it's just a little bit easier. Help is probably the word you want to try to avoid. But you don't want to frame this as a value call. Like it is a sales call. You want to make sure that that is clear. And so what I've done is I've given some more examples here. Here's what I'm thinking. Like, how would you find it if we hop on a call? Should we hop on a call? I mean, it would be helpful if we hopped on a call. Like all of these different options you guys can utilize here. And so this is, some examples and some follow-ups after that. Now, we're at the good stage, right? We're at stage 10, where we've got them booked. Your job doesn't end there. If you have a bit of volume, or if you require, to qualify some people, then you can do a quick triage in DMs, or you can just start building a little bit of rapport and sending them some content that will help them actually like learn more about you, get more social proof, stuff like that. So after the call, like link has been dropped, is you want to confirm the booking. So that came through on my end. Here's a couple of resources, right? You can invite them on the calendar, and then you can ask to get some more information, tag them in some testimonials. I actually really recommend this tagging approach. So this is a bit of a bonus insight, is when you send a link that says like jasoncfox.com/social proof or /proof or /testimonials. It's like I know what's there. But if you tag them in a post with a testimonial or a video, whatever it is, everyone clicks on notifications. So they're going to at least skim it or see it, rather than if they're clicking on that proof link or whatever it is, they've just been like, right? And yes, I would still send the proof link or have it somewhere, but I recommend tagging them because we've found so much success with that. And there's an if booked with closers, blah, blah, blah. Call reminders. You want to make sure you have those in place. You're at pipeline stage, call booked. So hope you're well. Did you get the Zoom link? Hope you're having a great week. Stuff like that. Canceling calls. If they are not a fit, you can move them to not a fit. Follow-ups and objections. Now, I will address a couple of these objections and we'll wrap this long video up, but you can read through some of the other stuff as well. The objections are really important, right? So we understand that they're probably going to come up. One that I want to address is, what is the cost? And for me, it's like, good question. The total investment to work with us ranges between lowest payment plan price and highest pay in full price. Regardless if you come up a client or not, I think it would be good for us to have a chat and at least give you some clarity of the setting systems we use or whatever your sales process is. And this is the best way to handle the objection. And if you actually care about the person and build that trust, I would rather them drop off here, but you've given yourself a good chance and you've showcased the price for them. Now, sometimes, like, I've had people who might have like ummed and ahed here who have bought, but in general, I find just giving this range works so much better. They might ask, what's the purpose of the call? Just diving into some things. If people try to pitch you, just move on. I want to start in 3 months, send a voice note, right? Of course, no pressure at all. I was thinking if you want to start in 3 months, we can still have the call, go over exactly what you need to do. And sometimes they'll just want to start the next day anyway. Working with another person, what's different to you about this, blah, blah, blah. What's your pricing like? So these are all examples and objections, follow-ups, and stuff that you can use. This is an extensive document, right? I am actually crazy for giving away for free. People say that all the time and it's a bunch of BS, but I am. Ridiculous amount of documents and stuff there. If you want more help, definitely the first thing I would do is sign up to Adtaria. But if you want more help with us actually implementing with you, we have 3 options: Client Accelerator, Inner Sanctum, or the partnership. Different levels of commitment and different levels of goals. You can read through that here. You can read through a few case studies I've written and a bunch of testimonials and interviews. For now, please drop a subscribe. I appreciate you. If you want the doc, the link will be below. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one.